So my apologies because I forgot to hit record. But so as you guys got to hear Pastor Anthony sharing, this is a partnership that the Southeast Region Conference was invited to join with Impact Latin America in spearheading new Free Methodist work into a new territory for us, which is the nation of Panama. And as you heard Pastor Anthony share, they obviously are looking for us to sponsor and to support financially and through prayer, but also in partnership as far as sending short-term missions trips, teams over there as well. So in the weekly email you saw, and I put the last part of it in the chat feed, we're looking to recruit 20 churches as partners. And our goal, and this is very last minute, we were just approached here this fall by the area director and Pastor Thad. Many of you know Thad Roller. He's from the SRC and is serving in Colombia as a missionary. He's also now district leader over that mission district, and he is directly overseeing Brother Anthony here and Lizette. And so we invite you. We're looking over this next 2 months if we could get our first goal, which is to raise, get 20 churches to commit $1,000 and raise that between now and the end of the year, so that we could help them for the first year of $20,000 would be the goal, and then $20,000 over the next 2 more years, so a total of 3 years. So if that's something that you and your church would be willing to make a holiday goal, we would really appreciate that. If you're willing to partner in this, please shoot us an email and let us know. Shoot me the email. That way we can get an idea of how many partners we are able to get. And this is an incredible opportunity to be able to spearhead new Free Methodist works into new areas of the world. So just I want to thank Anthony for joining us from Panama, and I'm trusting that God's going to meet the needs of this opportunity to reach more people for Christ. With that said, we're now going to invite Brother Tyler Cantrell to share, because he is going to share a little bit about how your local church can grow in its social media savviness, as well as how we're rolling out the conference social media initiatives. So if you want to put your view on presenter view, you will find that or speaker view, you'll get to see who's actually doing the talking as opposed to the full gallery of people. But let's hand this over to Tyler, and then we're going to do some breakout groups to cover some of the questions that come up. Go ahead, Tyler.
Thank you, Mike, and it's good to see all of you tonight. And I'm still relatively new to the family, and I'm just blessed to be here. I just love being in the FMC. One of the things that I talked about when I came in, and I'm going to give just a really brief history, and we've been talking about unrolling an SRC social media initiative. And I've asked Mike if I could actually maybe do that at least in 2 sessions on the clergy coaching call or the clergy call. And then if any of you are interested, I would be willing to maybe set up some smaller calls to help you learn how to do some of this branding and how to reach people through social media. I want to be clear before I pull up my parts that I'm going to show you the presentation. I'm not talking about live streaming tonight. I'm not that tech guy. I have people who do that for me. I'm not talking about websites. I can tell you if your website looks good or not, but how to build that, you probably don't want me building a website for you. But several years ago, I was in college and I worked for a sports media department, and I learned a lot about branding. I learned how to do some things and how to build a following and an audience. And for years, I asked God, why in the world did I learn all of this? Because I did not go into that. And then COVID hit. And God said, this is why you were learning those skills. Because I don't know what it was like for you, gentlemen and ladies, but I had to all of a sudden build some social media platforms up to reach people who had no other way to stay connected to their church body, right? And I learned some other strategies through it. So I learned some things, and one of the concerning aspects I found in coming into the SRC was it was very hard for me to find out information about the Southeast Region Conference. And it was also hard for me sometimes to find out information about your churches. And I, for one, want everybody to know more, not just about the Southeast Region Conference, but also I want to help you to be able to spread the news about your church. And you may not be in a very large church. I've pastored churches that started out with 3 and 4 people, and I'm now in a decent mid-sized church. So our budgets are different. So I'm aiming this that I can help you, if you would like me to, through developing these practices through any church with any budget. Does that make sense? So I hope that makes sense. So I'm going to show you a couple of things, and it's going to take me just a second to pull it up. Just another second here. Okay. And for some reason, it's only showing this. It's not letting me show this in presenter view. Did that come up, Mike? See if it's coming up. Okay. Okay. All right. So what we're trying to unroll here is basically a social media and ministry initiative for the Southeast Region Conference. And what I thought about before we did this is I'm going to show some different ways that we want to do this. And I want you to understand that my goal is to not only help the Southeast Region Conference, but also your churches. So why do we need to talk about this? Because I know many of you are probably thinking social media is a cesspool. Does anybody feel that way? Does anybody get on social media and think, man, this is just terrible, right? And I do too sometimes. But here's something else. One of our missions is really the Great Commission, as I'm trying to get this to let me work with it here. The Great Commission is really about sharing the mission of Christ with everyone and giving everybody on earth as many opportunities as possible that we can do in order to hopefully help them find Jesus. So the problem with staying away from social media in 2023 is it sort of removes our relevancy if we do not have any presence on it. So I want you to understand, if it is very hard for someone to find information about your church, then we are not doing a good job of showing who we are. So one of the things I want to help with is I want to help your community know the DNA of your church. And I also want to help the overall SRC, the DNA of the SRC, to get out to where more people can access it. So I hope that makes sense. Right now, I think it's a little bit hard, but what I have found, and one of the reasons God brought me into the SRC was when I was with all of you, I discovered this is where God wanted me to be, and that there was a place and a home that I never knew that I had. So I want to help to highlight that. And one of the things that we want to do here, I want you to be highlighting things that are already happening, highlighting values that are already true. The 5 values of the Free Methodist Church, I want you to be thinking on a level when you look around your church, and I hope you're doing this anyway, of where do I see life-giving holiness in my church? Where do I see God-given revelation happening in my church? Where do I see love-driven justice in my church? And those are going to be some things that we're going to end up wanting to spotlight on social media in ways that other people can see it, and it's going to make them want to be a part of what's going on in your church. And we also want others to be able to see, again, the DNA of the SRC. And when I'm speaking about that, I'm speaking about you because you're all that. What is something I mean by that? I appreciated that Mike shared the prayer, the conference-wide prayer initiative earlier, and also the prayer request, because many of you have been praying for a young lady at my church named Marin Fikes. She's 15 years old and she has stage 4 cancer. And she preached, we baptized her on Easter, and she preached our Youth Sunday this past week on sticking with God through tough times. And it was very impactful. But because I shared with Mike and Mark and the other leaders of our conference, that was shared, and I've received emails, and I actually had Mike send me a video from, I believe, the First Free Methodist Haitian Church in Miami, where he was this past Sunday. He shared a video with me of Marin being prayed for in another language. And I shared that with not only Marin and her family, but my church. And let me tell you, that really fired up my church about being in the SRC. To know that there is this kind of connection made them more excited to be in the SRC. And guess what? That DNA was already there. I just all of a sudden had an opportunity to highlight it because my DS took the time to not only get the word out to pray for Marin, but also that I have now I have something to share. So that was already in effect. So we talked about the purpose a little bit. You need a presence. It doesn't mean live stream, but you do need a presence on social media. I'm going to be talking a lot about Facebook. When you get onto Facebook, in the communities that you live in or the surrounding communities, many communities are going to have a Facebook group. And so I live in Blunsville, Alabama, and I'm a pastor in Pinson, Alabama. So there is a What's Happening in Pinson group. There's a What's Happening in Blunsville group. Many of those groups, not all, but many will allow churches to post once a day or at least once a week. So when I share my church's page post into those platforms, I'm reaching an entire new body of potential converts and disciples that may know nothing about my church other than they drive past it, right? So they see those things. So that's something I want to talk to you about. There are strategies that you can have to grow followers. I'm not going to talk about that today for your individual churches, but I am going to offer that down the line. If you have an interest in that, I would like for you to be able to contact me or some of us that are going to be working on this at the conference level. I'll be happy to do some tutorials. So before we talk about the two platforms, and how the SRC is going to do this, I want to show you a couple of effective branding things because I want you to have a good logo before we even talk about the SRC. Because if you're not promoting yourself locally, that's going to be hard for me to ask you to promote yourself through the SRC. So over here on the side, you can probably already see this. I'm putting some logos up. This is some logos of churches in our conference. On the far left, that is Missions Community Church, which is a church plant in Coleman. In the middle, that is Palmerdale Methodist Church. That's my church. And on the far right is Wesley Methodist Church, which is in Decatur, Alabama. Now, I want you to look at those three logos. And if you don't have proper branding or you just want an upgrade, there's nothing overly fancy about these, but I think they're very effective on me looking at it and understanding a little bit about what is there and what's it about. And all of those logos can be made for free on your phone. Every one of those logos can be made for free. So if you don't have a budget to pay someone to make you a logo, or you do not have someone in your church that can do that, we can help walk you through that. Here's some other logos. And the one on the far left, Rescue Church, is a church in North Alabama, and they, much like Palmerdale, we put "You Belong Here." They're putting loving God, loving people, and they did that in a very effective way. That is one you could easily make. The two on the right is Christ Community Church and Fraser Church. You might possibly need either a developer in your own church or some help to develop a logo like that. But District Superintendent Mike told me that the Free Methodist Church does offer some guidance for this at a very cost-effective price. So if you wanted something of this nature, you could cost-effectively get a logo created that fits your church. And again, when somebody sees that, you want them to understand what they're looking at. On Facebook, you have not only your logo or your profile picture, but you also actually have a header. And I want to encourage you to make sure on your headers that you have something like this. This was something that we created, but it's informational. So somebody looks at that and they're like, okay, this is when worship services are. They've taken the time to come to the page. And it looks appeasing. It's aesthetically appeasing, and it solves an issue. It shows them something that will help them know some information about worship services. Or you could put something like this. This is a picture from a recent baptism we had that was at a lake at a camp. This was a photograph that was taken that obviously could fit the header very well. And this is also something, if someone was scrolling through your page and they look at this, they might say, that is something I want to be a part of. I can look at that and feel that the Holy Spirit in the presence of God is doing something in that space. So we want to make sure that these images that we're putting up are strong. Now, I've given you a slight tutorial on effective branding and logos, and how that I'm telling you we can go deeper and talk about cost-effective help. And there's no church and no size that we cannot help you to get to this point. But something else that we want you to do that's going to help the SRC is spotlighting some ministries and some people that are doing effective ministry in your church. So I'm going to show you someone in my church who I think is absolutely amazing. This is Ed Cowden, and I'm creating a short post that we're going to put up about him in the next couple of days. Ed is 99, and he still runs our Carpenters for Christ program at Palmerdale Methodist Church. He builds decks in pieces, organizes teams to go and put these decks and ramps together. He finds people all throughout our community that are in need, and we do this at absolutely no cost to those individuals. And as I stated before, Ed is 99 years old and he still drives himself to church. He is also well known in our region because he's been a mission, just basically a mission advocate for 50 years. And we have a church that we helped build and a school we helped build in Haiti. And we still help fund that to this day. And we have had people from that school and people from those churches to come visit our church, and they watch our services every Sunday. I have people watching us every Sunday from Haiti, and that is such a blessing. So is this something worth sharing that might excite people to want to connect to our church? And my thought is it is. Is this something that I would want to share on the conference level, that this is the DNA of the Southeast Region Conference? Absolutely. And do you have stories of amazing ministry, amazing people, and amazing missions happening in your church? And the answer is yes. So one of my goals is that we can walk you through how to do this on your church site and your Facebook and your Instagrams. Those are the two most effective. And that we could teach you how to do that, but then you could share some of them with us, and we could share what's going on at your church through the SRC social media, so that more people can find out what's going on at all of these churches. So if I'm living in an area and I have been a Free Methodist most of my life, and I start to look in the Southeast Region Conference social media, I can find that some of those churches are close to me and find out what's going on. Or I might say, I need to plant one of these churches close to me. We need one of these, because that's exactly how Missions Community Church in Coleman got built. They found out about the FMC, and there was no FMC church there, and they have a very vibrant congregation for a church start with Pastor Dan Guthrie. So we want to make this information easily accessible. So having an issue here scrolling down. One other function I want to show you just very quickly on your Facebooks is right here. And a lot of pastors I've discovered don't understand what this is. You have a story function on Facebook and Instagram, and this is not a post. So this is an example of what I might could teach you in a one-on-one setting. On the left side, if you see our church logo, if you was to press that logo on your phone, it will pull up the little drop box at the bottom. And if you click on story, you can put a picture in the story. On the right side, you see my Facebook feed. And when you open that Facebook feed, up at the top is a list of stories. And you scroll through it, and they stay there when you post it for 24 hours. So many young people love to scroll stories. So once you have them following you, you can put a reminder about a service time, a reminder about the pancake breakfast on Saturday, an amazing quick ministry story. You can put things in the story function for absolutely free, and you can reach a lot more people than you probably were aware of. And sometimes that's more effective than putting the Facebook post, because people see that, because that's where they look. That is also available on Instagram. And I wanted to mention something. I know Mike posted a minute ago about how many people were under the age of 25, I believe. Well, Instagram, you may have less followers than a Facebook page, but you're going to have more people under the age of 25 following you if you build up an Instagram page than a Facebook page. So you may have half of the followers your Facebook page has, but it may be a whole nother audience of people. And you can actually link your Facebook and Instagram, and we could show you this. And we can link that. And then when you make a post to one, it automatically goes to the other. So it cuts your work in half. Those are simple things. The overall plan here is we want you to be able to understand how to reach people with your posts, to put up effective posts, to have effective branding, to have an effective message. And we want to show you how to do that. And then we want to share that with you, with the team in the SRC, that you can send some of those items to us, and we can actually share that as this is the Southeast Region Conference. That is my goal with this. And I intend to also show you how to make some short, impactful videos. I'm going to show you a video next month, maybe two, of short videos that you can make on an iPhone or Android device, editing, doing everything for free. And then you can share those videos, because video content is sometimes, it draws in people, different types of learners, better than a photograph would. So there's ways to do it, and it's very cheap, it's very effective, and it's gotten much, much easier. So I want to be able to teach some of you this, if you know this, and many of you probably already do. But also the main goal right now is myself, Carolyn, and Desiree are working with the conference leadership to come up with a plan to roll out the SRC, Facebook, Instagram, and eventually connect to a stronger website that makes it easier for people to not only find out about the SRC, but see the amazing life-changing ministry. So in closing, I'm asking you, do you have Facebook and Instagram pages for your church? Do you have effective logo and branding? And are you thinking about stories that are happening in your church that you would love for other people to see, that will help others want to come and be a part of that family? That's what we're looking for your church and for the Southeast Region Conference. Did I go too fast?
No, thank you, Tyler. So the questions were, do you have Facebook or Instagram for your church? And then, do you have a logo? And then the last one, Tyler?
The last one is to start thinking. I shared the story about Mr. Calvin. What are the stories in your congregation that we need to be sharing better for you, and to be sharing better for the Southeast Region Conference? And I want to reiterate again, I don't care how big or small your church is. There is a method and a way that we can do this. And I am happy to set up some more tutorials. I don't want to bore everyone, but I will close with one other thought. I have recently, through Facebook, become friends with many SRC and FMC pastors in other parts of the world. And I'm already, since I friended them, this is an amazing way for me to see the ministry going on there. So then if I choose to share those items with my church, man, that's just built-in teaching about the missions and the churches and these great things that are going on around the world that we're connected to and we can help. So our goal is to connect all those things, and I would love to help that. And I pray that I do okay at this, and Mike lets me do this, and he does not put me on a regular board or committee. I would really rather be here and help with this. So I plan next month on showing a short video or two. And if any of you have questions, please feel free to ask Pastor Mike to give you my contact. And Carolyn, that works at our office, said if you already have a story and a picture you would like us to start storing to put out on our social media when we relaunch our Facebook and Instagram, which are both there right now, you can go on and follow them for the SRC. But before we start really publicizing that, if you have anything you want us to share with the picture and the bio of it, send that to news@srcfmc.com. And she will start collecting that, news@srcfmc.com, and would love to connect with you further. And just I'm passionate about it, and I'm passionate about the love and the presence of God I feel in this place. And I just want everybody who God may be leading to us to be able to easily find us. Thank you, guys.
Thank you, Tyler. And so here's the deal, is that most people do not realize how inexpensive it is to make your community and even the region surrounding your church become aware of your presence and your ministry activity. Most people that live in your community probably don't know that you're there. And if you're a smaller community and they know that you're there, you're probably just that boring building on some corner of the street that's been there for a very long time that they don't know is doing much of anything. So, you know, back when I was pastoring, we did a training for pastors called guerrilla marketing for pastors or small churches, because the reality is what Tyler just said, all of this stuff that he just showed you tonight, you can do for free on your cell phone. And so that's what Tyler is making available. Of course, he is presenting the launch of our SRC social media network, which we want you to be a part of, because when people find us, they find all of you, and vice versa. And so we want to make your ministry better, more accessible, so that people who are searching, and I'll tell you right now, as the conference, we do get phone calls and emails where people have moved south. They are either Free Methodist in their background and they're looking for a Free Methodist church, or they have heard about the Free Methodist Church because of the notice that people are taking, because churches like Pastor Tyler's and Fraser Church and many other United Methodist churches that have disaffiliated and become Free Methodist, it has caught people's attention and they want to know more. So it's important that we seize the day, be wise as serpents and as innocent as doves, seize the opportunity we have to let the world know about your church, about our conference, and about what Christ is doing in and through us. So this was an introduction to just the social media side. Next month, he's going to talk about the video side. Short and brief. It's not going to be a full training. This is kind of a taste test. And if you are interested in learning more, reach out to Tyler. We shared his email in the chat feed, along with the news at srcfmc.com. So that you can send your stories to the conference so we can get those posted. But if you're interested in learning more, Tyler will be happy to train you. Maybe we'll set up a breakout working lunch at annual conference for Tyler to do some training on this there as well. with you all. But right now, what I'd like you to do is, first of all, I do just want to remind you of the stats I shared in the chat feed. 85% of young people today are finding new products via social media. They don't search for websites. They're going to social media first. And so I just want to encourage you, when 98% of young people are walking around with cell phones, we want to make sure that we have a presence there, so that when they're looking for hope, when they're looking for healing, when they're in their dark times, they can find that glimmer of light in the darkness. So let's make our presence known. Now we have 2 questions for you. We're going to break out into some small groups here to process for a few minutes, and then we're going to pray. What I'd like you to do is, in the chat feed, you'll see 2 questions shared. The first question is, what does our church's social media presence and engagement look like, and how might it improve? And then the second question for you to process in group tonight is, what are some examples of the 5 values of the Free Methodist Way being lived out among your church family? And those 5 values: life-giving holiness, life-driven, love-driven justice, Christ-compelled multiplication, cross-cultural collaboration, and God-given revelation. We're going to send you into small groups right now to process these 2 questions. And then what I'm going to do is I'll notify you to shift into a time of prayer. Due to the fact that it's 8:25, we want to make sure we have some time for you guys to be praying for one another as well. And then I'll bring us all back for some closing thoughts, and we'll wrap things up at normal time. So at this time, you're going to be taken out to your small group. Introduce yourself and start answering these 2 questions.